Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity of Bellevue. I'm Susan Neidig. I'm a prayer chaplain here at Unity of Bellevue. Our beloved Reverend Marla is taking a well-deserved vacation, and I'll be serving as your service leader this morning. Unity of Bellevue is a place where we know and we practice the spiritual truth that God is good and all is well. We're about waking up to this truth. We are becoming more and more aware all the time of who we are, what we belong to, and what we have come here to do. And we believe we've come here to love God. We have come here to love one another. We've come here to grow in our spiritual understanding. And we've come here to serve the greater good from that place of love and wisdom and understanding. So that's a little bit about us. You can learn more from our website, unityofbellevue.org, or by talking to one of those in service today. And I'd like to introduce those who are in service this morning. I'll start with Lynn Zeller, our meditation facilitator. Thank you, Lynn, for such a wonderful meditation. Lynn is a prayer chaplain here, and she'll be joined by Jennifer Holt for our prayer circle after the service. So join Lynn and Jennifer if you'd like to pray together. Our board host today is Jean Palmetier, and she will be hosting our offering. Our producer is Monica McDowell Elvig. She's our center administrator. She's our producer. She is our loving person who does so much for our center. Thank you, Monica. And Monica will be doing our announcements this morning as well. Please join me in welcoming. We're going to have a guest speaker this morning that we'll hear a lot from in a few minutes, Reverend Sally Robbins. Sally came to New Thought very early in her life, 1985. As an adult, she spent 25 years in the world of corporate America and entrepreneurial before she started in ministry. She's a contributing writer to Science of Mind magazine, was a featured columnist in Creative Thought magazine, has served at the national level at the Centers for Spiritual Living in a variety of roles. She is now serving as the Associate Minister and Center for Spiritual Living in Asheville, North Carolina. We're so grateful to welcome you here this morning, Sally. Thank you so much. So let's welcome back our guest musician, Reverend Kit Holmes, with her first music video this morning.
I live in the spirit of love. Spirit of love, I live in the spirit of love, because love lives in me. I move in the spirit of love. I move in the spirit of love. Spirit of love, because love moves in me. I reach out in the spirit of love. I reach out in the spirit of love. I reach out in the spirit of love, because love reaches out through me. I heal in the spirit of love. I heal in the spirit of love.
Love sets us free. In the spirit of love, let's turn within as we become more aware of the presence of the one that lives and breathes us all, the source of all our good. And we are one with each other. We're one with the Spirit. There can be no separate. And I open this service with a grateful heart, knowing that as one, we are receptive. We are open to the truth that is shared today through the music, through the message. And I know all is well, and so it is. Amen. So our affirmation this morning, I'm going to read through it. I'd like you to be as open and as receptive to receive it in every cell of your being. And then once I'm done, we're going to affirm together. As I fall upward into a greater awareness of unity and oneness, I embody divine intention and loving consciousness. Life is good, and I am grateful. And so it is. Breathe that in as it becomes you, and let's affirm together. As I fall upward into a greater awareness of unity and oneness, I embody divine intention and loving consciousness. Life is good, and I am grateful, and so it is.
It's in your eyes, the questions of the ages. There are challenges and changes in everything you see. It's hard to trust, and sometimes the best of us can lose our way. That's why I'm here to say, I'm gonna hold you in the light, hold you in the light, hold you till you know again that everything's alright, and I'll remind you, as you are enough. I'm gonna hold you in the light of love. It's in your hands. There are angels in the answers. Choose your second chances. This is where you're meant to be. Don't second guess. Life will give you all the happiness that you deserve. Rest assured, I'm gonna hold you in the light, hold you in the light, hold you till you know again that everything's alright, and I'll remind you, as you are enough. gonna hold you in the light, hold you in the light, hold you till you know again that everything's alright, and I'll remind you, as you are enough. I'm gonna hold you in the light of love. I'm gonna hold you in the light of love. In the light of love.
Well, good morning, everyone. Oh, it's so wonderful to be back with you. I love this group. And thank you, Reverend Marla, for inviting me to be a part of today's experience. I hope that, no, I'm not hoping. I'm knowing that you are open to receive a message that is just for you today, whether it's through this beautiful song that we just heard, which I have to tell you, I love how God is in charge. That song was the perfect entree into my talk called Growing in the Dark. And I know that many of us are experiencing this right now. We're having some challenges. As a matter of fact, I know when I'm on target, when I chose this topic a couple weeks ago when Reverend Marla reached out to me. And on Friday, just this past Friday, someone near to me said, how do I deal with all of the chaos, all of the darkness, the climate change, the fires, the hurricanes, all of that? How do I deal with that in this world? And we had a wonderful discussion about her participation in growing in the midst of all that. And then just yesterday, I was at a gathering of other spiritual seekers, and a friend of mine came up to me and she was saying basically the same thing. She said, it's just amazing how this world is up leveling in so many ways. It's up leveling in the climate issues, in violence, both physical and non-physical, because you can have verbal violence, can't you? A lot of us can default to that really quickly. And she was saying that this was really tugging at her heart and she didn't know how to deal with it. But she ended with this sentence. She said, but we all signed up for this, didn't we? And I thought, wow, that's a pretty profound statement, that somehow my soul has called forth all of these wonderful, challenging circumstances that are happening in the world right now, and that I have chosen to be here in the midst of this and still know the truth. Or as that beautiful song before just said, just to still hold the light in the midst of this. And I found a wonderful story that really helps anchor that. Because I think many of us, I'm included, and maybe you resonate with this, that we find ourselves, what we used to work no longer works in our lives. And the things that used to bring us peace and serenity are being stripped away. And there's all kinds of change and uproar in our lives. But I found this wonderful story that helped me understand it a bit more. And a couple of weeks ago in the Washington Post, there was an opinion piece that ran. And the title of it is, "We're Interrupting Violence in Minneapolis, One Lawn Chair at a Time." And I thought, I got to read this and find out what's going on here. And apparently it all started last spring in Minneapolis, when there were many homicides and many of them involved children. And several people in that community in North Minneapolis said, this is not acceptable. This is not the way that we want to be experiencing our lives in the midst of just awful violence that is just so unnecessary. And so a group of people got together to start this wonderful program called 21 Days for Peace. And one of the leaders is Reverend Jerry McAfee, and he's the pastor of the city's New Salem Missionary Baptist Church. And his church is located in North Minneapolis in the midst of one of the hardest hit areas there that sees gang violence and homicides and shootings and all kinds of things going on a daily basis. And he's been in the midst of all this for many years. He's worked with a lot of the young people. And so he and this other group of leaders got together and said, we've got to do something. And they call it 21 Days for Peace, because their premise is not that we're only going to do this for 21 days, but it takes 21 days to create a habit. So they're going to show up consistently for 21 days in their consciousness, and then they're going to keep repeating that. So what they did was they got this group together and they decided to solicit for other volunteers to help them out. And they approached the city's precinct, the police and the precinct, and said, what are the worst corners, the worst street corners in our neighborhood? What are the ones that you always keep seeing shootings and drug deals and just awful things happening on those street corners? Tell us what those street corners are. And the police named them. They had the statistics. They knew where violence would happen on a regular basis. And so from that point, they chose these particular street corners, and they decided they would have 2 volunteers show up and literally put out a lawn chair and sit on the street corner. I'm going to show you how they did this, because it's just amazing to me how this group decided, I'm going to show up in my lawn chair. And so as they did, they were showing up and sitting down. These are 2 people. You see the sign in the background there that says 21 Days of Peace. And they literally will sit on the corner where drug deals regularly go down, where drive-bys happen all the time. And just their presence from the springtime, they started on May 28th, and June, July, and August, violence went down precipitously. It went down so much for over last year that they know that this is working. They know that just showing up and being a part of the community, just by saying, we're here and we're going to stand for the light, the promise, the love, the community that we are, is going to be right here in the midst of this, no matter what. What a powerful statement. Just with showing up with a lawn chair. They're not holding up signs. They're not trying to convince anybody. They're just showing up to be a presence of light and love and power. And of course, if that starts conversations, that's even better as people walk by on the street. So I love this idea that sometimes, even in the midst of darkness, even if we don't know what to do, we can show up with our lawn chair. I'm using that figuratively now. We can show up and say, I'm just going to be here. I don't know yet what that's going to mean. I don't know how I'm going to impact anything, but I'm being led to show up in a way that is higher than the vibration that is currently here. And I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. You know, we can sit and grouse about things all day long, but that's being part of the problem. I want to know that I'm contributing to a higher consciousness, even if it just means showing up as love incarnate. Whether that's at the grocery store, whether that's sitting on a corner in North Minneapolis, whether that's showing up at my job where things may be just going totally crazy and wonky, I'm going to show up as love. And I'm going to hold the light, as that beautiful song said. I'm going to hold the light, even when it doesn't appear that there's a shred of light in the room and it's dark as all get out. I'm going to be that light. In this opinion piece that appeared in the Washington Post, the authors, who are 2 of the leaders, said this: what makes this simple act of sitting apparently so powerful? The people sitting on these corners in their chairs are members of the community. We know our young people and they know us. But more importantly, We represent one of the strongest bastions of moral authority left in these areas, the Black church. We draw on the power of congregation, of family, of friends, and of community to try to interrupt the violence. And our faith gives us the courage to put ourselves in harm's way. They're just going to go for it and see how is this going to improve the situation simply by my not agreeing to be part of the violence, and I am allowing myself to be a part of the solution by being the light and love that I know is already present here. It simply hasn't been given a chance to shine and show up. You know, Elizabeth Lesser talks about in her book Broken Open, which is a fabulous book, she talks about how difficult times can help us grow. That's the subtitle of this wonderful book. And on page 18, she talks about the author William James, who a famous philosopher, and we've quoted him. He's a part of the New Thought movement. But he wrote that there are two kinds of people in this world, the once born and the twice born. Once born people do not stray from the familiar territory of who they think they are and what they think is expected of them. If fate pushes them to the edge of Dante's famous dark woods, where the straight way is lost, when you go into Dante's woods, there is no path. It's the woods, it's the dark. And the once born people don't want to go there. They will turn back. He says they don't want to learn something new from life's darker lessons. They stay with what seems safe and what is acceptable to their family and society. They stick to what they already know, but listen to this, but they don't necessarily want. Oh, I can definitely relate to that. Can you? Where I know that I don't want something, but I'm not real sure I have the courage to leave it yet or to let it go yet. Elizabeth Lesser goes on to say, once born people may go through life and never even know what lies beyond the woods or that there are any woods at all. But she says a twice born person pays attention when the soul pokes its head through the clouds of a half-lived life. Whether through choice or calamity, the twice born person goes into the woods, loses the straight way, makes mistakes, suffers loss, and confronts that which needs to change within himself or herself in order to live a more genuine and radiant life. So the twice born person has the courage to say, yeah, it's dark, it's chaotic, and things aren't working like I thought they would, but I know and I just sense that God is in the midst of this and that this too is for my highest good. She goes on to say, while once born people avoid or deny or bitterly accept the unpredictable changes of real life, twice born people use adversity for awakening. Awakening, betrayal, illness, divorce, the demise of a dream, the loss of a job, the death of a loved one. All of these can function as initiations into a deeper life. Isn't that a great change of perspective? Maybe all of these things that are happening are not so much a breakdown, but the breakthrough to something that is so enriching that it initiates us into a higher level of consciousness. Now, I can get behind that. And finally, she says, twice born people trade the safety of the known for the power of the unknown. The power of the unknown. Let's take a breath right here. That's powerful. The power of the unknown. It takes tremendous courage to live on that edge, to live in the mystery of life and trust that Spirit's got our back and know that we too have that divine power within us. We can co-create a life beyond that we could ever have imagined with our finite human minds because Spirit is guiding and leading us. She says, this is not easy. It is not a made-up fairy tale. It is very real and very difficult. To face our shadow, the dragons and hags that we have spent a lifetime running away from is perhaps the most difficult journey we will ever take. Wow, that's where I want to be. I want to be setting up my lawn chair figuratively in every corner, dark corner of my life and saying, this is where I'm going to hang out and know that if it has come into my life, that there's gold in these hills, there's gold in these dramas of life, there's gold in these challenges, and that I can mine them if I simply set my mind to the idea that this too is for my highest good. This too is the encapsulation of the God within me. And I can trust that I'm given every resource, every power that I will ever need is right here, right now. All the courage you'll ever need is already within you. You don't have to get it from someplace else. You do have to grow it from what you do have within you, and you have to experience it with direct knowledge, with direct experience, because we can know something here, but until we know it out here, it doesn't really matter, does it? I know lots of people that can spout our principles all day long, but are we really living them? That's really where we get to the juice of what we're talking about here. Our consciousness matters. And these folks in Minneapolis have understood that and have spent the entire summer. And as it gets cold in Minneapolis this time of year, it starts getting colder. They're going to move indoors and start working with young people one-on-one. They're still signing up online to work with young people, even if they can't sit outside any longer. Once it turns bitterly cold, they will be doing something to make a difference in their community. Our consciousness, what we think and what we put into the world, is so important. And right now, we who have chosen to be the light bearers in this world, and if you're listening to my voice, you are a part of that group. You have somehow said to the spirit within you, yes, I'm ready. I've signed up for this, and I know that I have what it takes to be a force for good in this world. There's someone else that I want to tell you about that had a distinct up-leveling of her life. You know her as Gloria Estefan. Remember the Miami Sound Machine back in the 80s? I'm dating myself. Yes, I'm that old. And Gloria Estefan broke out in the 90s as late 80s, I guess, is when she started as a solo singer. She was on a bus tour back in 1989. And the bus, she had just done a concert. She was in Pennsylvania. They were going to the next place, and there was construction on that highway. And the bus stopped because the traffic had stopped on the interstate, but there was a truck behind them that didn't see that they had stopped until it was too late. And the truck slammed into her bus. She was lying on the couch in the bus. That sent her flying off of the couch. And in the process, she broke part of her spine, her neck, and she couldn't move. She was paralyzed. This was a direct result. She admitted later when she was interviewed that there had been times throughout her entire, from her childhood on, her father had had a debilitating illness where he had to be in a wheelchair. So for much of his life, he was not really accessible. He couldn't walk around, couldn't play with the kids. And so she said that when she was in her home as a child, she would bound up the stairs of their house 2 at a time. But when she got to the top stairs, she said to herself, well, I'm glad I can do this now, because someday when I'm an adult, I'm going to be like my father and I won't be able to walk. As a matter of fact, when she and her husband built their home, she put in an elevator. She put in an elevator because she still was thinking that idea that somehow she would be impacted. She didn't formulate it, but she said, somehow I'm going to need an elevator too, because like my father, I'm not going to be able to walk. I'm going to need a wheelchair. Talk about the power of your thought. So she is in this accident. She flies off the couch. She's paralyzed. But the beauty of life is that we always have the choice of choosing again. And that's exactly what Gloria did. She decided very quickly that, as a matter of fact, she says, I said, if it is up to me, I'm going to be okay. And that she would work hard and diligently, even though the doctor said to her, you won't walk again, let alone dance, because she would dance, throughout her concert, and a very active lifestyle. when her doctor said that she would not walk or dance again, she said, I'm choosing something different. She started intense physical therapy and worked diligently, very painfully through this process of learning to walk again and be like she was before. After over a year of doing this, she finally was able to do so. Now, if you understand what she did there, she simply substituted an old thought for a new one. And Emmett Fox talks about that. He says this is the law of substitution. He says the only way to get rid of certain thought is to substitute one for another. And so when we get to that place where, that thought really isn't working for me any longer, I get to choose what that new one is. I get to say, wait a minute, I'm going to choose something far more empowering, far more light bearing, far more loving to myself and to the world. And I love that idea that Gloria said, this is not my fate. I get to choose what it is. The law of averages don't even apply to me because I'm a law unto myself. And that's what we teach in New Thought, which is so empowering. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, had this to say about it. Negative forces operating in our lives will die a natural death if we practice the habit of being disinterested in them. Isn't that great? We can just be disinterested in an idea that no longer works for us. Okay, thank you for sharing. I'm moving on to another thought now. And as I do that again and again and again, it may take me 10, 20, 30, 100 times in one day to keep choosing a new thought. And yet that's what I'm here to do, to hold the light, to know the truth of myself. And from that place, I am coming from a place of power, not, oh my God, how am I going to handle all this overwhelming drama and chaos? I don't want to live there, nor do you. And yet too many times I've camped out there and said, oh, I don't know what to do. Maybe it's time for me to set up my lawn chair. Again, figuratively, what am I being called to do in this life to represent a powerful force for good, not the negativity of the world? I'm not going to chime into that. I'm letting go of the gossip and the negativity and the Real Housewives of whoever that doesn't empower me at all. I'm going to live in a place that says exactly who I am, a divine essence that's here to co-create with the power of 1,000 suns and live a life that is a great, wonderful model, not just for myself, but for those around me. Because as I empower myself, I'm empowering everyone in my world. You know, sometimes we think, our human mind thinks that there's just one pie. And if I get more of the pie, that means there's less for others. But no, we're dealing with an unlimited pie. That's what the beauty of this universe is. And that as my share of light and love and beauty and power grow, then everyone else's gets a chance to do that too. I'm not detracting from anyone. As a matter of fact, I'm doing the opposite because I'm showing other people that they too can do this. So when Gloria Estefan said, I've found another way, almost 2 years after her bus accident, she made a triumphant return. I can still remember this, viewing this in 1991, the American Music Awards, and here's a picture from that. And she sang her newest release, Coming Out of the Dark, which was so appropriately titled. That song became an anthem that even in the midst of the dark, she can come out of it stronger, more powerful. And the rest is history. She went on to create the life of her dreams. She had another child. This is a woman who decided, just like you and I have the opportunity to do every day, deciding to grow in the midst of the darkness, because it is a decision. I want to introduce you to one of my favorite people, Amy Short. She's a friend of mine. She lives in New York City, and she was a part of my congregation when I had my church in Maryland. And she told me this wonderful story about how when she was 18 years old, she was having a very challenging time in her life. She came from a very dysfunctional family. There was abuse, neglect, all kinds of things going on there. And she actually had gotten to the point where she said at 18 years old, I'm not sure if I even want to be on this planet any longer. This is not fun, and I don't want to be here. She was seriously contemplating whether or not to even stick around. She was walking home one day in downtown Baltimore, and a mugger came up to her, shoved a gun into her ribs, and said, give me all your money, then threw her down on the sidewalk, and she gave him her money. And then even though she gave him everything, he started beating on her. And in that moment, she said, as she's telling me the story, she said, out of this guttural place came the word no, no. And she started fighting back for her life. And she said, it didn't occur to her until that instant that she in that moment was choosing life, because she had been thinking about the other possibility of not being here and ending her life. And it was so crystal clear in that moment that she had so much to live for, and that was a gift that the mugger gave her as he's beating on her. She said no, and as soon as she started fighting back, he got up and he ran away. This was a powerful lesson for Amy, to know that when she got clarity about what it was that she was here to do and be, she said, I'm going to replace that thinking. And immediately her life started turning around. She said doors opened up and resources came to her. And it was amazing how her life quickly up-leveled, simply because she shifted her perspective about what it was that she was here to do. J.K. Rowling, who wrote the wonderful Harry Potter book, says this: we do not need magic to change the world. We carry all the power we need inside ourselves to get comfortable, inside ourselves already. We have the power to imagine better. Isn't that what it all comes down to? How willing am I to be creative in my thinking, and to know that even in the midst of global warming and all the things that I see that can be so depressing, that I can somehow hold myself in that space, and in that space of knowing that there is a solution already existing, as my friend David Alt says, solution already exists, that I pull myself into a place that is available and receptive to what's mine to do about it. Does that make sense? I can be available and receptive only when I'm in that place of saying, I'm here to be the light. I'm here to hold that space. Even if I don't know what it is yet, I'm going to hold the space, knowing that I can be a part of the up-leveling, and it's my consciousness that is going to help move me to that place. Growing in the dark, it is one of the most difficult things we can do. And I know many of us, myself included, have been doing our best, especially with the pandemic, all the change that's happened in the world in the last year and a half due to the pandemic and economic issues and all kinds of things. Even the fact that we're having to meet virtually, that puts us in a whole different place than we were even a year and a half ago before all of this happened. And yet, there are those of us who are saying, in the midst of this, I can grow and I can be something greater than I even thought that I could be. Richard Rohr, who is one of my favorite authors, wrote about liminal spaces, and I'm going to share that with you, because he says liminal spaces are when we are betwixt and between. We've left one room but not yet entered the next room. And any hiatus between stages of life, stages of faith, jobs, loves, or relationships. Being in a liminal space automatically means that we're in the mystery. We don't know yet. That proverbial one door has closed, but the other hasn't opened. We're still in the hallway, so to speak. And the liminal space, that's what this is called, is a place of deep exploration, deep introspection, and a place for us to come to a better understanding than we would if life had continued on with the door still being open on the other side. He goes on to say, it is that graced time when we are not certain or even in control, when something genuinely new can happen. That's the time when we're being primed, when we're being up leveled, and it's up to us to hold that space and not condemn it, because then that shuts down the creative vibe and the juice and all of these things that can happen in the liminal space. And finally, he says, much of the work of the biblical God and human destiny itself is to get people into liminal space and to keep them there long enough to learn something essential and genuinely new. It is the ultimate teachable space. Wow. This is where I want to be. I want to know, like Richard Rohr, that we can not only live in this space, but we can grow, we can thrive in this space. And it doesn't have to be a place of struggle and leaving my claw marks because I'm not yet ready to move into the next. It can be a time of surrender and adaptation and a knowingness, a deep knowingness that Spirit has always got my back through every difficulty, every challenge, every drama that shows up in my life. Everything is showing that I'm being held in the hands of God and that all is well if I simply allow. If I simply hold the space that all is well and all is perfect, then I can move into a more empowering phase of knowing what is mine to do. But we've got to do the first before we can do the latter. If I'm clenched onto what used to work but doesn't any longer, I'm withholding the opportunity for the new to come in. It's like, have you ever been on a subway? Well, when one train is in that where the track is and where we board the train, if that train stays there, the new train can't come in. So too many times I've held on to that old train going, wait, don't go yet, don't go. When it's meant for that old train to keep going so that something new can come and take me to a whole new adventure. Wow, liminal spaces are good for us. They're beyond good. They are growth for us. And it takes great courage to be a twice-born person, to be in that space that says, I'm up to this challenge. And whatever comes my way, I can handle it with God as my co-pilot, with the co-creative force that is within me, that is always guiding and directing me. That's the most powerful place in which you can reside. So embrace these times, my friends. Know that you are being called to something even greater than you've already experienced, and that the challenge is simply growing us to a whole new level. It's growing us to a new place of understanding, a new place of awareness, and especially a new place of consciousness. I'll close with this quote from Nancy Levin. Honor the space between no longer and not yet. Isn't that hard to do? Because we want to know what's next. Our human mind wants to know what's next on the path. And yet sometimes we just got to hang out in that space between the no longer and not yet. And that's where our growth really happens. That's the darkness that we can embrace and say, yes, I too, just like a potato, I can grow those buds in the dark. We are meant to be growing at all times. We are meant to be a powerful force for good in this universe. And so I know that you have within you now what it takes to move into that space. I've just given you a whole lot to think about. So let's take a deep breath in and let's take that into prayer. Father, Mother, God, oh, it's with a grateful heart that I just say thank you for the challenges, for the opportunities of growth, for the darkness, for the chaos, because chaos is simply what we don't understand yet. And so I know that As I look back on everything in my life, I've understood that there is a pattern. There is something that has helped me grow into who I am today. And that's all that's happening right now, is that the growth that I'm experiencing is simply grooming me to a greater awareness of what is yet to be. And so I just say, thank you, Spirit, for all that has come into my life, all the people, all the circumstances, even the challenging, difficult ones. I know that I have what it takes within me to rise up to a new level of being, to a new level of consciousness. And I can open up my folding chair and sit down and be the light right now. That is what I'm called to do. That's what I'm here to do. And that's what I will do. And so I just know the truth that I am a light bearer, simply on my advance forward movement, because that's the only way we grow upward. And that's the law of nature, is that we are constantly growing. Only I can retard that growth. I will now let go of all the hindrances and all the old ideas that have claw marks in them and saying, no, I don't want to let go of this yet. I let them go now. And I move into a state of grace in that liminal space that says, there's something good. Can't see it yet, but there's something good that I know is on its way to me. And I am open and available for that right now. And so I bless this morning. I bless each and every person who's been within the realm of my voice, whether you're hearing it live or whether you're hearing it via tape later. I know that you too have something greater within you calling you right now. Break out that lawn chair, my friends, and know that you are called to a greater way of understanding, awareness, and consciousness. That is what you are here to do. And so I simply let these words go, knowing that as I have declared them, they are already done. We let it be so. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.
I surrender to the power and presence of love within me, and all is well, all is well. I surrender to the power and presence of love within me, and all is well. I surrender to the power and presence of peace within me, and all is well, all is well. I surrender to the power and presence of peace within me, and all is well. I surrender to the power and presence of joy within me, and all is well, all is well, all is well. I surrender to the power and presence of joy within me, and all is well. I am love, I am peace, I am joy. I am love, I am peace, I am joy, and all is well, all is well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jean Palmetier. I'm your board host for today. But before I start, I'd like to just take a couple of seconds and say, Sally Robbins, that was a great message. Awesome and so blessed to have you today. And along with you and everybody else that put this together today, Reverend Kit Holmes was our guest musician. For those of you that may not have known, Monica McDowell Elvig is going to talk about our announcements here in a few minutes, and Lynn Zeller did our meditation this morning, and Jennifer Holt will do our prayer. Join us after the service if you'd like to join us in a group prayer. But I really wanted to say, Sally, thank you so much for the reminder to be the light, not just that there's light in the world, but to be the light. At Unity of Bellevue, we hold each other and all others in the world in the light of love, where we learn to grow, sometimes in the dark, and when we try to serve our center and the world at large. One of our beliefs is that giving is a spiritual practice. If you're new to our center, don't feel that you have to give, but if you would like to give, you're welcome to. For those of you that are with us on a regular basis, you know all the different ways to give, but if you need a reminder, they on the website, just select the button that says give, and it'll give you all the different ways that you can contribute to our center. If you would now, though, join me in the offering blessing as we affirm our abundance and light as a group. I give freely for the joy of giving. I know that seeds sown in love produce an overflowing harvest of good for me, for this center, and for all people. Lovingly I give, joyfully I receive, and so it is.
I speak a word of blessing on these gifts and on the giver for the great and mighty works that are done with these gifts. On behalf of Unity of Bellevue, I simply say thank you. I give thanks to the infinite provider. God is good and all is well, and so it is. So I'm going to start the announcements today with an announcement about some small groups that are going to start in October, on October 17th. These are going to be similar to spirit groups, but we can't use, spirit groups actually went out of business, so we're not calling them spirit groups anymore. These are time-limited small groups. It's your chance to get connected and be transformed by the power of spiritual community. There's going to be 7 weekly gatherings. It'll start October 17th and end December 3rd. We're going to open registration next week on September 26th. So a registration will be available to you either through the website or it'll come through the email. Our ongoing 2 small groups will still continue, but these groups that are starting, there'll be 3 of them. They'll meet every week for 7 weeks. So look for that registration. Come join us in a small group. It's a fantastic way to connect with the rest of the community here at Unity of Bellevue. So I'm going to turn the rest of the announcements over to Monica. Monica?
Hi everyone, my name is Monica McDowell Elvig. I am your center administrator. We are so glad that you are here with us this morning. We open our hearts to you. We know that in our beliefs that every person is another face of God. And we know that if you are visiting with us, you are a new face of God to us. And so we welcome you. We want to get to know you as part of our oneness, as part of our oneness in love. So reach out to us. We are completely online right now. And the best way to stay in touch with us is to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter. It comes out every Thursday morning. You can go to our website, unityofbellevue.org. At the bottom of every page is a sign-up form for that newsletter. Today, our prayer chaplains are Lynn Zeller and Jennifer Holt. Following this service, we'll take a 3-minute break, and then we'll have a virtual prayer circle in our breakout room, which you can join. This is a confidential group, and you can also email prayer requests always to the prayer chaplains at unityofbellevue.org, prayerchaplains@unityofbellevue.org. All of the links to the emails and everything I'm talking about are in the chat and in the comments on Facebook. So join us for the prayer circle following service. Living What Matters meets this Wednesday, every Wednesday at 1 p.m. This is a free drop-in group. We're following the Book of Soul by Mark Nepo and learning a new spiritual practice each week. So join us for that. Even if you don't have the book, you are welcome. Classes are starting. In addition to small groups starting up this fall, some new ones, we have new classes. The Gifts of Imperfection based on the book by Brene Brown. Reverend Marla will be leading that. That begins on Wednesday evening, September 29th. We've got a great group forming. Sign up for that. You can also just register for just the first class session and test it out and see if it's right for you. That's free. You can just register for free and just sign up for the test run. So look at that. And then we have a Discovery membership class coming up in November too that you might want to take a look at if you're not yet a member of Unity of Bellevue. That's it. Have a great week, everyone. Blessings and much love to you.
Thank you, Monica, and I'll echo that. Have a great week. Please join us on Wednesday for Living What Matters. Listen to this last song by Reverend Kit. Let it uplift you and carry you into the week to come. See you next week.
I get as good as I give. So giving good is the way that I live. I'm giving love, I'm giving joy, 'cause I get as good as I give. I get as good as I give. So giving good is the way that I live. I set an intention, give it my time, 'cause I get as good as I give. Now it may sound kind of funny, but we're dealing with a law. The law of circulation, of course. It's there for me to use, and it works, but I gotta prove that I believe God is my source. I get as good as I give. So giving good is the way that I live. Giving peace and harmony, 'cause I get as good as I give. Now the universe has many ways of enforcing the law. I've gotta walk my talk, raise my standard of living. I got to raise my standard of giving, 'cause I can never outgive God. I get as good as I give. So giving good is the way that I live. Giving love, I'm giving joy, giving my talent, lift my voice, set an intention, give it my time, giving forgiveness, peace is mine, 'cause I get as good as I give. Yeah, I get as good as I give. Yeah, I get as good as I give. Up, up, up to a higher place. Up, 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 far beyond this time and space. Up, up, up to a higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. Up, up, up to a higher place. Up, 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 far beyond this time and space. Up, up, up to a higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. A higher place, higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. No more forward, no more backward, no more spinning around and around. My life is moving ever upward. My feet are leaving the ground. Up, up, up to a higher place. Up, 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 far beyond this time and space. Up, up, up to a higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. Higher place, higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. No more downward, no more darkness, no more wondering the point of it all. My life is destined, oh, for greatness. My soul has answered the call. Up, up, up to a higher place. Up, 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 far beyond this time and space. Up, up, up to a higher place. I feel